1978. Richard Williams is watching TV when a tennis match catches his eye. He sees Virginia Rusasai receive a $40,000 check for winning a tournament. In that moment, something clicks. He turns to his wife and says, "We'll have 2 kids and we'll become rich. They're going to be tennis players." The problem? He doesn't have kids yet. He doesn't know how to play tennis. But he's about to write a 78-page plan that will create tennis history.
What Richard Williams did defies every principle of child development and sports psychology. You can't plan a career for children who don't exist. You can't guarantee athletic success. The statistical probability of having even one world-class athlete in a family is infinitesimal. Having 2, it's like lightning striking twice in the same spot.
It's like asking somebody to believe that you have the next 2 Mozarts living in your house. When Richard showed me that plan, I thought this guy was completely out of his mind. But every single thing he predicted came true.
The odds of what the Williams family achieved are beyond calculation. We're talking about 2 sisters who would combine for 30 Grand Slam singles titles, dominate tennis for 2 decades, and become global superstars. All from a 78-page document written before they were born.
Today, we're exploring the most audacious parenting experiment in sports history. How one man's impossible vision became reality. And what it's really like to grow up in a household where greatness isn't just expected, it's been planned down to the smallest detail before you take your first breath. To understand the magnitude of Richard Williams' plan, you need to understand where it all started. One Sunday in 1978, a man who had never played tennis seriously watched a tournament and had a vision that would change sports forever.
I will never forget standing there in amazement, watching the tournament director present a 25-year-old professional tennis player from Romania a $40,000 check for winning the tournament. I told my wife, "We'll have 2 kids and we'll become rich. They're going to be tennis players."
Think about what Richard was proposing. He was going to learn tennis from scratch, teach himself to coach, have 2 more children, move them to a specific environment, and orchestrate their rise to the top of a sport dominated by wealth and privilege. The audacity is breathtaking.
My plan was simple: to bring 2 children out of the ghetto to the forefront of a white-dominated game. I wrote a final 78-page tennis training plan for myself, Audacious, and my daughters-to-be, detailing every step of the road we would travel, more than 2.5 years before they were both born.
Venus was born in June 1980. Serena arrived in September 1981. Before they could walk, Richard was already implementing his plan. But this wasn't just about tennis, it was about creating an entire life philosophy in one household. The Williams household was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Richard didn't just want to raise tennis players. He wanted to create champions who could handle anything the world threw at them. And his methods were as unconventional as his vision.
Venus and Serena every day brought school books to the court in case of rain. Richard had a motto: "Even in the rain, the girls will train the brain." He would not allow himself or his family to be anything less than excellent.
What led me to Compton was my belief that the greatest champions came out of the ghetto. I had studied sports successes like Muhammad Ali and great thinkers like Malcolm X. The ghetto will make you rough, it'll make you tough, it'll make you strong.
Richard deliberately moved his family to one of the roughest neighborhoods in America because he believed adversity would forge champions. While other parents were trying to protect their children from hardship, Richard was using it as a training tool.
At first, I just thought someone was setting off firecrackers or popping some balloons, but once I learned what the sound meant, it would shake me up pretty good. We practiced through gunshots, through everything.
But the plan wasn't just about external circumstances. Inside the Williams household, Richard was orchestrating every detail of his daughter's development with scientific precision.
All 5 girls shared one bedroom with 4 beds. Serena rotated who she shared a bed with each night. They had a 10 p.m. bedtime until they turned 18. We wanted to make sure they were kids, that they had a teenage life.
V was my guiding light. I actually never thought I was good at tennis. You have to understand, I was growing up next to Venus Williams. I worshipped my older sister, and it took a long time for me to separate my identity from Venus.
While most families would struggle with one potential prodigy, the Williams household had 2 future world champions sharing a bedroom, competing for attention, but also pushing each other to impossible levels of excellence.
The psychological dynamics were unprecedented. Richard wasn't just raising athletes. He was managing the delicate balance of sibling rivalry while ensuring both daughters reached their maximum potential. As the girls grew, Richard's plan became more detailed and specific. He controlled everything: their training, their education, their exposure to competition, even their mindset about their own capabilities.
Richard Willpower Williams pushed his kids hard every day. He challenged them every day. He yelled at them every day. Most of all, he hugged and kissed them every hour. But I can remember 50 times when he called off practice because Venus' grades were down.
I told Venus that she would be #1 soon, and I told Serena that she would be the greatest of all time. When Venus is 14, she can play 1 tournament. At 15, she can play 2. She's going to go to school and grow up as close as possible to normal.
Richard was programming their minds for success while protecting them from burnout. Most tennis prodigies play hundreds of junior tournaments. Venus and Serena played almost none. He was building champions, not just tennis players.
The plan was so specific that Richard even predicted which coach would work with them, what age they'd turn professional, and what their playing styles would be. People thought he was delusional. By the time Venus and Serena were teenagers, people began to realize that Richard's impossible plan was actually working. Every prediction, every timeline, every development was unfolding exactly as he had written. By 1999, 18-year-old Venus and 17-year-old Serena had become the hottest players in tennis. They had met in a historic final, won tournaments on the same day, and begun to crowd know. One Martina Hingis atop the money list, like a pair of bullies plotting to take her milk money.
Our dad had this plan before we were born. He would tell everyone he talked to that his girls would be successful because he planned for it. People thought he was crazy, but everything he said would happen happened.
The tennis establishment was in shock. 2 teenagers from Compton were dismantling players who had trained their entire lives in elite academies. Everything about their success contradicted conventional wisdom about how champions are made.
What Richard achieved challenges our fundamental understanding of talent development. He proved that with the right plan, unwavering belief, and perfect execution, you can essentially manufacture greatness from scratch.
The impact of Richard's experiment extended far beyond tennis. He had proven that traditional pathways to success could be completely reimagined if you had the vision and courage to follow an unconventional plan.
The blueprint was already there, I just had to follow it. I took Richard Williams' training plan and began to apply it to my own daughters. Now Naomi is considered one of the top stars in the women's tennis universe.
Richard Williams didn't just raise 2 champions. He created a template that other parents are still trying to replicate today. His academy coached Maria Sharapova, Jennifer Capriati, Andy Roddick, all future world #1s.
The statistical improbability of what happened in the Williams household is staggering. Tennis experts described it as improbable as one set of parents raising Picasso and Monet.
The Williams sisters are the only 2 women in the Open era to contest 4 consecutive major finals. They combined for 30 Grand Slam singles titles and 14 doubles titles together. One family produced nearly half a century of tennis dominance.
But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Richard's plan was how it evolved to handle the psychological complexities of having 2 superstars in one household.
We still tease our mom because she didn't allow us not to get along. One of the best things that was ever told to us is that your sisters are your best friends. You're not allowed to fight. We became each other's biggest supporters.
There is no Venus without Serena and Serena without Venus. I wouldn't be Serena if there wasn't Venus. She's the only reason Serena Williams ever existed.
Richard's plan had to account for the impossible. How do you raise 2 world champions who love each other but have to compete against each other? He created a family structure that turned potential rivalry into mutual elevation.
When people ask me about the plan, they want to know the secret. The secret is believing in something impossible until it becomes inevitable. I saw their greatness before they were born, and I never stopped believing.
Today, the 78-page plan that once seemed like the fantasy of a delusional father is studied by sports psychologists, coaches, and parents around the world. Richard Williams proved that greatness isn't accidental. It can be planned, nurtured, and achieved.
My little sister, Serena, told me I'm not allowed to quit. There is no Venus without Serena and Serena without Venus. Our dad's plan didn't just create tennis players, it created a bond that nothing can break.
The Williams family experiment shows us that with enough vision, dedication, and belief, parents can literally design their children's destiny. But it also shows the incredible responsibility that comes with that power.
People still ask me for copies of Richard's 78-page plan, but the plan isn't in the pages, it's in the mindset. Richard believed his daughters could be great before the world knew their names. That's the real blueprint.
The Williams sisters continue to credit their father's vision for everything they achieved. Not just the trophies and records, but the strength to handle pressure, the bond between sisters, and the belief that anything is possible. Richard Williams' 78-page plan represents more than just sports history. It's proof that the impossible becomes possible when vision meets unwavering commitment. He literally planned his daughters' greatness before they were born.
What happened in the Williams household defies every statistical probability. Two world #1 players from the same family, sharing a bedroom, supporting each other while competing at the highest level. It's a blueprint that may never be replicated.
The Williams family story teaches us that greatness isn't just about talent or opportunity. It's about having someone who believes in your potential before you even know it exists. Richard saw champions before his daughters took their first breath.
This episode was brought to you by Unstruct AI, where we explore the impossible stories that reshape our understanding of human potential. Today, we've seen how one man's audacious, 78-page plan created tennis history before his daughters were even born. Richard Williams proved that greatness isn't accidental. It can be envisioned, planned, and methodically achieved. He watched a tennis match in 1978 and decided his future children would dominate the sport. The statistical impossibility of having two world #1 players from one household makes their story as improbable as raising Picasso and Monet. But Richard's plan wasn't just about tennis. It was about creating a family structure that could nurture two superstars while keeping them grounded, educated, and connected to each other. Venus and Serena shared beds, practiced through gunshots, brought schoolbooks to tennis courts, and were told from birth that they were destined for greatness. The plan worked so perfectly that other families like the Osakas have tried to replicate it. But perhaps the most remarkable achievement isn't the 30 Grand Slam titles or the millions of dollars. It's that Richard created two champions who genuinely love and support each other in a world where sibling rivalry can destroy families. He crafted a plan that made his daughters each other's greatest allies. Sometimes the most impossible dreams require the most detailed plans.